go right through Patricia Brennan from DDD. I know she's here talking about the wait list, but I have to tell you, her job is much more expansive. If I gave you the whole title of her job, I would be going on for a while. Patricia, go ahead.
So hi everybody. So as Dotty said, I'm Trish Brennan. I am the director of the Office of Education and Self-Directed Services, Priority Waiting List and Special Projects at the division. I'm going to get started and talk to you a little bit about the Community Care Program waiting list. So it had been, prior to 2012, it was known as the residential waiting list. And prior to then, we only had one waiver. We now have two waivers. So in order to be eligible, you heard Jonathan talk about this a little bit earlier, that in order to be eligible for the community care program, it's one of two ways. It is you're either deemed an emergency or you met on the top of our priority waiting list. So they're the two ways that you can come in through, and you also have to meet our level of care. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about meeting the level of care and what that means for everybody. But we wanted to kind of give you that information. So again, the community care program waiting list, what it is, it enables people and their families to notify the division of potential need for the community care program enrollment. So that means telling them sometime I may need to be enrolled on the community care program. It allocates limited funding to people in New Jersey with similar needs and circumstances. So each year there's an allocation of dollars based upon the strong advocacy of families in the governor's budget for how many people we can reach from the top of the waiting list. Access to the community care program is limited to our funding's allocation for the fiscal year. Does not guarantee, if you're reached, does not guarantee that you're enrolled in the community care program, because you heard John say earlier that you need to meet level of care. Eligibility and needs determines upon when you're reached on the top of the list. You can move to the next slide. Great. So I actually pulled this this slide. I've used the slide regularly, but I update it each time because the numbers change frequently. So right now, so I pulled it, on Thursday actually. Or no, whenever Kyoko said we had to submit this by, is when I pulled it. We had to the last minute to get you this exact number. So these are the numbers as of this minute almost of number of people on the general waiting list, 1,938. People on our priority waiting list, 3,209. And the total amount of people on the community care program waiting list is 5,147. We're actually gearing up right now to help to move forward with our annual ranking letter. I'm going to talk about that as well. But there are two waiting list categories, general and priority. So the general waiting list is made when the person requests to be put on the priority waiting list. They don't quite meet the criteria for priority. They're put on the general waiting list. The person must be able to be eligible for division services. They also they don't get a rank number if you're on the general waiting list. And what you need to know about this is if you're on the general waiting list, you still have to apply for the priority waiting list when you meet that criteria. You can move to the priority list slide, the next slide, fine. There you go. So it may be requested by the person, family, guardian, or supporter at any time for anybody who qualifies for division services. It needs to be specific to meet our actual approval for that. One of the basic ways that which you're automatically put on is when both parents reach the age of 55. So that's something to keep in mind. So when both parents reach the age of 55, even if you're on the general list, you want to get back, you want to put on the priority waiting list. If you know that it's sometime down the road, you're going to want that all-encompassing supports and services. You can move to the next, there you go. So the application for it. So you can move to the next piece. I'm going to talk a little bit about submitting the request form, because my unit does both the when you get reached, when you're removed, and now we've taken on the past year, we've taken on when you get put on the waiting list. So that request to be put on, you can get put on the waiting list one of three ways. You can just write into our help desk with all the information. The actual application is on our website. You can send it in the mail to our Trenton office. You can also do it with your support coordinator, and they can upload it into the iRecord. So any of those three ways, it can automatically be put on. So you can, again, support coordinator can submit it, you can go from there. I know it's really small, but we wanted to kind of get a picture of what it looks like and the different pieces of what you need to do when you're filling it in, because there are certain things that need to be in your application. Again, the easiest one that's an automatic is when both parents are at the age of 55. They have to submit copies of their license or some sort of proof that both both parents, both legal guardians are over the age of 55. And they put all this information on there. And the next one as well, you need to select the category of the waiting list that you're applying for when you submit it. As we process them, you can turn to the next slide. Certain specific supporting document is required, and you check all the boxes that apply, and you put that in. You can move to the next slide. Great. So once you're added once you're able to be added, you will get a letter stating that you've been added to the community care program waiting list, and it's sent and it's entered in there as well. So once it's completed, you're going to get a letter that's with your effective date. So that's your waiting list date that you were placed on the waiting list, and that's how you do it by chronologically when you're placed on the waiting list is how we reach the top of the ranking. You can move to the next slide. So again, annually, based upon our regs, so we're gearing up to do this. We send a letter out to everybody. So in June, and I'm going to give you a heads up, June 23rd is when they're going to be dated. We're going to fold them all on the 18th, I think. And we usually have like a pizza party and fold them. So in case, it should be dated June 23rd. If you're waiting for your waiting list letter, the annual ranking letters will get sent out in the mail. The past 2 years, the really beauty of this is that we've been able to send them in the mail, and at that same day, we've been able to turn our records, our electronic system, so that they're automatically uploaded into our system, so your support coordinator can have a copy of that. So as well as, you will get a copy, your support coordinator will have a copy, you will know where you are on the waiting list based upon your ranking. So again, each year, annually, as per our regulation, we have to send it out where you are in ranking on the priority waiting list once you're on the priority waiting list waiting for the next step in services. And again, as of this point, the question we've frequently gotten asked is how long is that waiting list, right? It's anywhere right now, we've gotten it down to about 7 to 10 years. But again, it's based upon the amount of people we are able to reach based upon the budget. The past few years, we've been able to reach 400 people. Before that, it was 200 people. There have been years when it's only been like 50 people. It all depends upon the governor's budget. We write stuff up, but has to get signed off upon. You can move to the next one. Again, ranking letters delivered 3 ways. Everyone gets them in the mail. Emails to our person and the guardian. So this year we're going to have to send out I had to order over 7,000 envelopes because of each person's guardian gets it. So some people have, 2 guardians, etc. But only people on the priority waiting list gets a ranking letter. So this is just kind of just an example of one of those pieces. You can go to the next slide. If you have questions about the waiting list, I'm not sure if I'm on it. Can you help me with some of the paperwork? Because there's a lot of paperwork to go through it. Right into our help desk. They will help you with any of those pieces. They'll even say, even if you need help filling in some of the paperwork, they'll set up a time to do it with you over Teams if you need additional assistance. So if you have any questions about the waiting list and what it means and how it is, we've had, a parent die and a sibling say, I don't know anything about it, but I heard maybe I'm on the waiting list, I don't know anything. Just write into our help desk, we will take care of that. You can move to the next slide. So when a person is reached on the priority waiting list, we really want people to start to think about this. When you get your letter and your ranking, you know what number you are. It's about to be, if you're getting closer to about to being reached, starting to think about what it is that you want for your life when you have been reached. What it is, why did you put your individual on the priority waiting list? What is it that you want for these supports and services? And then how can we build the supports and services around them? Move to the next slide. So when somebody gets reached, they are also assigned a transition and educational liaison. A member of my team gets a caseload for everybody who's reached. They will get a letter in the mail saying that they've been reached. That letter will also go into our iRecord. Their support coordinator will also be notified and start working with our transition and education liaison to kind of go through the steps, go through the process. You've been reached. You may be eligible for the community care program. Let's think about what are your next steps, because again, in order to reside in a licensed setting, you need to be in the community care program. In order to be eligible for that additional supports and budget, as you heard John say, in lieu of an institutional setting, that community care program budget. So once you've been reached, again, your transition and education liaison is going to contact you. They're going to work with you. They're going to start to get you through some of those next steps. They'll send you out a packet of information. In that information are going to be some of our life course tools. They're going to help you start to think about what it is that you want for your life, what don't you want for your life. They're going to start to sort through some of that integrated support star as well, and talk you through that next step. You can move to the next slide. They're also going to invite you to a virtual welcome session where you work with, and Melanie, who you heard earlier, she's part of the team at CLEP that works with us with some of these sessions. We invite the support coordinators and anybody who's been reached on the priority waiting list to kind of hear some stories and hear about different scenarios of when people have been reached and what residential settings they've looked at when they've been reached, how they've set up the next steps for their person's life, and what they want to do for their future. We have sessions with them as we start to partner with the families and the people on the list that have been reached. You can move to the next slide. Again, once you're reached, you get this specific person from my team attached to you that kind of walk you through this process so you can start to think about what are the next steps for my life. They're going to confirm your Medicaid. If you don't have Medicaid, they're going to walk you through that and help you with all those steps as well. They're also going to walk you through the New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment tool that John kind of shared with you, and they're going to review that your last version with you to make sure that it's current, to make sure that it's up to date, to make sure you've captured everything in the person correctly for the supports and services that they're looking to have. They're going to also look for that level of care review, because if a person isn't automatically, based upon their current New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment tool, eligible for the community care program, they're going to work with you and write up the full level of care. So you can move to the next slide. It's going to talk a little bit more about that level of care. And that level of care, our team prior to COVID, we met with people in their home. Now we're meeting with them in their home if they want us to. Otherwise, we're doing it over Teams. And figuring out all the information, meeting with the person, their team, everything getting down all the information, and then we're submitting that level of care review to the team that actually reviews them. And so again, if once somebody's reached, if they don't automatically meet by the New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment tool tier, they don't automatically meet those standards, we're going to be working with you through that level of care review to see if you know what those next pieces are. You can move to the next slide. So if a person does not meet the level of care, there is an appeal process, and that unit makes you aware of those next steps. And we also work with you to make sure that everything is, that you've gotten what you need, you're on the waiver that makes the most sense for you, that you're eligible for as well. You can move to the next slide. So again, we're going to work with you through all those different pieces, and until one, you are found not to be not eligible for level of care, we're still going to work with you to help you figure out those next steps as well. You can move to the next slide. If you are found to be eligible for the community care program, you're going to work with your support coordinator. We're going to help you through those next pieces, because you're going to have to redo a whole new plan of care because you're going to have to share that you're no longer be on the supports program. You're going to be on the community care program, and you're going to figure out those next steps that you're looking for. We're going to educate you as well a little bit more. Some of you may already be self-directing, but we're going to educate you as well about the self-direction, as well as the option of being provider managed, as well as some of the licensed residential settings that are available to you at this point. And you can choose, any of these things once you are made eligible for the community care program. And we're going to walk you through each of those steps. And until you have that plan in place, you are going to remain on the priority waiting list. We will not be removed until that new community care program plan is in place. Or if you are not found eligible for the community care program, we're going to make sure you have the support program with the supports and services that you are looking for in place and you will not be removed until that time. So you have that transition education liaison from the time you're reached all the way until the time you're removed. And they're going to work with you through that process. And it could be months, or it could be a year. It could be, some of as quick as like 3 months. When families are up and ready, we've had families come to us since we've been teaching people to utilize some of those life course tools. They come to us with them already filled in, and their support coordinator is already on the ball, which we're seeing now that we're starting to do a lot more education, and they go really quickly. and the importance of those pieces. But sometimes it takes some time to figure out what it is that you're looking for, to really purposely plan what those next steps are, to figure out your why did I want to be on that priority list? What is it that I want for my future? And we are seeing now a lot more families are not saying, back in prior to 2012, it was, okay, here's the vacancies, what do you want? Now it's, you can start to purposely plan for your future. Let's get additional supports and services in your own home while you're looking to build that creative life for the next pieces. So getting on the community care program and starting to build your circle of support to get to that next step. You can move to the next slide. Again, we use these tools as soon as someone is reached on the priority waiting list. They are getting the transition education liaison after that first phone call with the family is sending out, we call it a welcome packet, but it's not, the families don't realize that, we refer to it as that. but it's like kind of a welcome that you've been reached in the priority waiting list. Here are some of the tools. We have some guidelines along with them, and we walk some families through some of these next steps to help them figure out what it is that I'm looking for. Am I looking for a residential setting? Do I just want something in my own home for right now? I'm not sure what I'm looking for. Let me organize what supports I have and that I want to reach for my next pieces. And that's kind of all my grand overview. I'm going to turn it over to Dotty. We do have some of the pieces on here, the quick guides for families and some other resources up here. But I really, to talk about what the different ways in which you can look to those next steps to be reached in the community care program. For some resources aren't available to you unless you are on the priority waiting list, unless you're on the community care program, unless you're reached from that list.
Hi, Dotty again. I know this was a very important part, and a lot of people have been waiting to hear from Trish to talk about housing. I'm going to ask you to hold your questions. I've only got about 4 slides, and then after that, you can ask whatever you'd like. Trish said a couple of things I wanted to follow up on. She mentioned that from year to year, it varies how many people we can take off the priority waiting list. Some years it's been 50 people who got the call. Sometimes it's been 400. She can't say this because she works for the state, but here is an opportunity for you to advocate. Send a letter to the governor, send a letter to your legislator, tell them that we need more people to come off this waiting list. The other thing is she talked about building support and doing some planning. That's why I wanted to add a few slides. Even before you get to the top of the priority waiting list, there are options for housing. A great source is the Supportive Housing Association manual. I think I saw Amy looking at a copy of that manual. Do you have that, Amy, in front of you? Yeah, that's what it looks like. That is a great source of information of different kinds of housing that you can be looking at. Yes, most people assume they'll get the call from Tricia or Tricia's team, and they will get a list of group homes that are available. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do a group home. A really good friend of mine put his son in an apartment within a larger residential, an apartment complex. That has been terrific for him because he is right in the community. Unlike a group home, which sometimes has a tendency to look inward. They are their own little community. They go out to eat together. They go take walks in the park together. Living in an apartment in a larger complex forces that person to be there. When he goes and does his laundry, people see him. His neighbors know who he is because they're literally living right next door to him. So I think it's a terrific option if your person chooses to do that. Sometimes a group home may not be the best because your person may have a sleeping schedule that doesn't necessarily sync up with other people. I know a young man, terrific young man, but he did not sleep at night. It made it really hard for his housemates because they did sleep at night. So that may be a reason to consider an apartment or a standalone house which did not share walls with other people. Another possibility is shared living. So consider having a house, sharing a house with someone else. The other person can either pay for their living costs, or you can actually pay that person to provide services. But that might be a better choice because you might have a little bit more room. You might be able to have a little more flexibility in where you want to live. But anyway, the Shaw Housing Guide is a great source. The other thing you can find on the Shaw website are housing navigators. These are people who are specially trained to walk people through the housing process. Tricia's group, of course, is always terrific. You don't get that call until you get to the top of the list. So here's an opportunity to look at things before you get to the top of that list. The other thing that I would absolutely recommend is the Shaw newsletter. That comes out every month. Sometimes they include lists of apartments that are available. Sometimes, well, usually they include waiting lists. There are housing, there are housing agencies all throughout the state. Some of them are with townships. A large one is maintained by an organization that I serve on, the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency. When the federal government provides money, the window opens and people can apply for an apartment. And these are apartments that must meet the federal market limits? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
FMI, yes. But this is, oh, I did put it in
Yeah,
here.
it's right here.
Oh.
That's with the FMR, it's the fair market rent.
Thank you. I did. All right. All right. But in the presentation, there's a link to see what those rates are. But as long as the apartment meets that limit and you are able to meet the income limits, you can apply for that. But again, the Shaw newsletter is a great way to find out whose waiting list is open and what apartments are available. The other thing I wanted to mention was the subsidy that usually comes through DDD and their community care program. That comes with a host of services. Not only does it include living expenses, but it includes the housing subsidy. You can get that housing subsidy, which is, I'll go through the calculation in a little bit, but if you don't need those housing services, and I know most of us our people are going to need those services to be able to live in the community in addition to the housing subsidy. But if you don't need those services, then you can apply just for the rental subsidy. The rental subsidy is the difference between the fair market rent and 30% of your person's income. Supportive Housing Connection can give you the difference. Now, the availability of that housing subsidy is, again, of course, dependent on every year's budget. But if there's money, you can apply for that and just get the rental subsidy. I don't know if I put this in here, but finding a place to live, you can wait, of course, for Tricia's call from her team. You can talk to your support coordinator. They may or may not have an idea of where to find an apartment, or you can hire a supports broker. Unlike a support coordinator, the support brokerage is a service that will impact your budget. I think it ends up being about $32 an hour, but usually when you hire a supports broker, there's a defined project. So if you say, I just want to hire you to help me find an apartment or a place to live, then those services will be limited to that specific project. You can contact a private landlord to see if they have an apartment. You can also check with the New Jersey Housing Resource Center. This is a database of apartments that are available. Now, this is done for all of the apartments that are available. But if you go to that database, first you check what town you're interested in, but I would also ask you to check on the secondary search, which is check off SHC, the supportive housing connection, because that'll tell you which apartments do qualify for the rent subsidy. And again, I've already mentioned the Shaw newsletter. The other thing I would suggest is that you think outside the box. A lot of day programs are now expanding their services to include housing. This is something that I did. Well, it actually started off a number of families that I knew, and we sort of checked in on each other, and then the people that we had contacted kept changing, and then we realized one day they're all associated with the day program. Now, we ended up developing our project away from the day program, but we met my daughter's roommates through the day program. So that I think is a way that was really beneficial for us. Maddie already knew her roommates, the families already knew each other, and what developed was this natural community. So we're able, the moms, more so than the moms, Dave, I know you're right here, and Dave, talks to the dads also, but it really is, for the most part, the moms. We talk to each other, we have this extended community, we arrange dinners together, so it's really very nice. It's a very natural development. But the other ways you can consider is Katie's House, and Katie's House is the project that does, that's an unlicensed setting, isn't it? Yes, okay. I have mixed feelings about licensed and unlicensed settings. I generally lean toward licensed settings, but unlicensed settings can give you some flexibility to do some other things. And again, talk to your friends. Talk to people. I know over time I found that my friend circle were just other families with people with disabilities, but find out where they are, how close they are getting to the top of the waiting list, and the possibility of developing something. When I got together with Maddie's roommates and their families, we ended up contacting United Way, who built a wonderful project, gave us a really good insight in what agencies they considered to be the best. So we were able to make some important decisions. We didn't wait to get a list from the state and then take whatever residence was available and whatever agency was attached to that. We were able to plan a little bit, and that gave us a lot of peace of mind. Lastly, look at the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for your municipality. There was a law in New Jersey that was linked to water rights, and development in your community, where a portion of those, the cost for whatever that project was, were deposited into a local affordable housing trust fund. That is no longer the case, but those funds may still be available. Additionally, there is a state program for affordable housing trust funds that your developer, a private entity, or your municipality can apply for from the state. Those funds are used specifically for special projects, not necessarily limited to developmental disabilities. They can also be used for seniors and veterans and other projects. But if those funds are available in your town, go to your town. Better yet, go with other families who have people with disabilities and make the argument for a special needs project. What's very helpful is a document, again from Shaw, that talks about how to make that argument before your municipality. It tells you what you should be saying to them, why it helps them, also gives you a list of best practices to for better inclusion of people with disabilities in your community. So that's all I wanted to share. Just wanted to think outside the box.
I do want to add one quick thing. When we talk about support brokerage, it needs to be tied directly to a self-direction, and it's more for that, and it's a service that comes out with self-direction. So it's not solely for a housing piece. It is something that goes with self-direction as a service in building those objectives for those pieces. So I just wanted to make sure that,
That's a good point.
got some clarity on those pieces.
Yeah, I did kind of overlook that. Are there questions?
I think you.
Yep. Okay. So there's two questions from the online participants. So one asks if you do get approved for the community care program, can you use the funding to kind of cover financial needs or kind of cover Plan NJ as they discovered before?
The community care program services are waiver services, so it needs to be something that's within our waiver manual. So the services and supports need to be the direct supports to that participant, and it has to maintain something that's within our community care program manual.
Okay, and I sent the manual link in the chat.
Perfect.
The services all start on page 91 of that manual.
So that all-encompassing supports and services you are eligible for, but it has to be one of those services.
Yes, and then the other question is, we mentioned housing navigators, and they were wondering if that is do you have to pay for them, or is that a service you could just reach out to and they will?
Yeah, I don't think you do. I think
It's through Shaw right now.
Yeah, it's through Shaw. If you get on the Shaw website again, just search for housing navigators and there's a list. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've only heard of one housing navigator. All right, it's not like I've done a comprehensive interview with all the housing navigators, but the one entity that I know, the one person I know who used a housing navigator was really good. It very much helped them. So you can get a list of those housing navigators on the Shaw website.
Okay, those were the two questions online. If anyone has anything in.
This is just a related question to the Plan NJ. Is Plan NJ a DDD vendor?
No.
No, okay. So the goods and services budget cannot be used?
No, goods and services cannot be utilized for Plan NJ.
Okay.
Good question.
Hi. I have a question about the rental subsidy. So I find that when you go there and you ask about renting out for someone with special needs and if they take rental subsidy, they mentioned to me about need good credit report. You have to have 2 or 3, 4 times earnings. How do you navigate around that?
Your support coordinator should be able to help you assist that, and we actually have a whole housing unit that could help as well. So the support coordinator should be able to help walk you through each of these processes, and if they need additional assistance, we have a unit that can help them through all those pieces.
Yeah, but this is from a building, property management, saying that you can't rent to anyone unless you have certain income. It has to meet 3 times earnings. You got to have good credit report. So how do you put your child on the application?
Yeah.
You know, it's like an obstacle.
I know the question because I know families who have done exactly that. Their person does qualify for a rental subsidy. So you would think that between the subsidy, which covers the difference, and the 30% that comes right out of their income, would be sufficient, and it's not. And it's because it is a private entity, it is a private landlord, and they are not going to change their rental standards because it's a person that has another income. It's just the way it is. It's something that I know I've talked to the HFA about this, but that's just what it is.
My daughter lives in an apartment complex. What you do is you co-sign.
Yeah.
You have to co-sign the lease for her. So they base it on
Yeah.
our income. The landlord, right? So we submit all our financial stuff and we co-sign the lease for her, and she lives there.
Yeah, thanks,
That's
Laura.
how you get around that.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's good. Yeah,
Yeah, I forgot to answer the question directly, so thank you, Laura.
For the people online who didn't get to hear the answer, there was a family member in the audience who said that she co-signed on her daughter's apartment to help kind of bypass the
Yeah.
requirements from the private entities that are
It's not
renting
just
out
a bypass,
apartments.
it's the only way to do it, because if you had 3 times the rental income, you wouldn't qualify for the rental subsidy. So, yeah.
What about just going through the county housing authority?
I'm sorry, what?
What about just going through the county housing authority?
You can. I mean, I live in Bergen, and there is a Bergen County Housing Authority, and they do have a wait list that comes up once in a while. The difference between the local housing agencies and DDD is DDD focuses just on disabilities. The local housing authorities, they can open up their list when it becomes available, and they will specifically say, it's just for seniors, it's just for veterans, it's just for kids coming out of the adoption system, so, or people with developmental disabilities, or some combination of it all. But there's a difference. I mean, financially, the numbers work out the same, but
would an individual that's over 55 qualify to be in with the senior citizens?
well,
As long as you meet the criteria.
I think so. But then again, I was shocked when I walked into a restaurant at 60 and they said, you're a senior. So yeah, I think, no, honestly, I think it varies. Sometimes it varies, but I think 55 is the cutoff. But I think some people may, depending on who you're talking to, may define it differently. So it depends. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah.
So, developing your own is clearly one of the options that people should think about. Years ago, before when low-income housing tax credits came out first, we worked through community access. We developed over 400 units of housing, and used a lot of that for people to become their own homeowners. So there are those kinds of options. So what I wanted to throw out was my organization, New Jersey AAIDD, and Monmouth University were doing a study on accessory dwelling units, which is potentially the next way of families to develop their own housing opportunities. So we're starting that study this summer. If people are interested, I want to give you my card, or if you've had experience, maybe I find people all the time who say, "Oh wait, I did that. I have one on my property." We've been able to do it in a number of places. There's over 50 units in Princeton right now. Unfortunately, most of the towns don't have ordinances, and because of that, you'd have to go through a lengthy variance process and so on to do accessory dwelling units. There are now 10 towns. We just got Plainfield as of last week to become the 10th town to do that, and we have a coalition of organizations working statewide to change the state land use laws so that it will be permitted in every municipality. Unfortunately, if we had to go town by town, there's 566 municipalities in New Jersey, so it would take a while. But if anybody's interested in that, or if you have experience with that, please let me know. I'll give you my card. We'll be starting this study this summer, and the goal is to create models that will enable to do that. And as Dotty mentioned, we did that with New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance years ago, where we created the Home of Your Own program through HMFA, and we're looking to do something similar with this that would allow families to develop housing, because you have the opportunity to provide supports as well as affordable housing, so it has, many different kinds of benefits. So.
Yeah. Walter, the accessory dwelling unit, I think, is a terrific model. So if people have experience with ADUs, or if they want more information on ADUs, do you want us, do you feel comfortable sharing your email, or do you want us just to send people your way? What do you prefer?
I'm sure we'll give you information. I'm talking to the council about
Okay.
putting something out that we begin the study. So,
Okay.
we
Yeah, I really, it is unfortunate because I think it was about 6 or 7 years ago, there was a piece of legislation to create ADU or a statewide law so you wouldn't have to go from town to town. But it didn't pass by the smallest of margins, which was really unfortunate. But I think it's a great idea. Ah, good to know. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else? Because we have one. Oh,
I'm gonna say really quick question, and Trish, you might be able to answer this. Is if someone needs the help finding staff once they do have the housing, are there any suggestions for how they can go about doing that?
So the question kind of becomes if you're looking to self-direct or if you're looking to go provider managed, and it really is trying to figure out, matching the staff and the person and the next steps for each of those pieces. There are all kinds of tools out there. If you're looking for self-direction, my team is doing our family networking sessions that we're focusing on is all about finding staff. We have one on Tuesday in Ocean City, giving a plug. We have one on Tuesday in Ocean City. So if anyone's looking for that as well, but finding staff, if you're looking to self-direct versus provider, it may be different, but it's really thinking about what it is you want that person to do, right? What skills do they need to have? What common interests do they need to have? How do you match that person? And let's figure out matching those staff and the skills. But again, that's, our staff would also work with you to help figure some of those pieces out if you're looking to something new as soon as you get reached on the priority waiting list.
Great. Thank you. That was the last question.
okay. We have one more panel, which is going to be done remotely. Cathy Tamburello, are you? Is she? All right. So Cathy is going to end our day with some really good advice. She's going to give us an outline of the binder, what you should be putting together so you can easily transfer all of the knowledge that you've built up over your person's life to build what I like to call a user manual for your person. So, all right, on to Cathy. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. I'm going to start. I'm echoing. I'm not sure why I'm echoing. Carrier Kyoko. There you go. Thank you. I'm Cathy Tamburello. I'm the state co-chair of the Regional Family Support Planning Council. But more importantly, I'm Michael Tamburello's mother. Oops, we're echoing again. Can you mute the room? Carrier Kyoko.
Cathy, this is Kyoko. We're on it. Give me a 1 minute.
Okay. Okay. Nope. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Thank you, Kyoko. As I was saying, I think my most important claim to fame is that I am Michael Tamburello's mother. Michael is almost 40 years old. He is an individual with intellectual and developmental disabilities who has very, very high support needs. And as I recently went through my will and redid it and kind of put more of a comprehensive estate plan into place, I really started to think about what do I need to make sure is ready to go for my daughter, Jenna, who is very involved in her brother's life and is an OT, so she has even professional background in individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I just wanted it to be easy for her. I didn't want her to be looking for things. I didn't want her to have to try to figure out. As we all know, as family members of individuals like Michael, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of record keeping that needs to happen. And I know where it all is, and I know what to do with most of it, and I've kind of learned it along the way, as we all have. But I wanted it to be in place for Jenna. What Jenna knows and does well is the programming. She can talk about what community options Michael should have. She can talk about therapies that he may need. She can talk wonderfully about all of that. But when I started to think about all the things that she needed to know, and one day sat down and brainstormed kind of a table of contents, and when I was at the end of the third page, I thought really need to organize this for her so that she would be in a good place to just jump in and do whatever she needed to do. So to that end, what we started doing and what we really have been doing for quite a long time, well, is we've kind of developed a collaborative relationship with the people that are part of Michael's team and Jenna. She participates as much as she can. She lives in Massachusetts, so she's not here. She's a young mom with 3 children. But I talk to her all the time about what is going on with Michael. What are the decisions with Michael? So, we want the involvement, we want the collaborative decision making, but what I was lacking a little bit was in the organization. So, what this has done is it's sort of Michael's operating manual, and it has pulled everything together into one place so that she can easily pick it up and take over if she needed to at any given moment. So the manual lives actually behind me in my office in a binder, but it also lives online in a shared Google folder. So you can go to the next slide. So just started thinking about all the different headings. I wanted to leave a letter to Jenna and to my family. I'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted the vision for Michael to be clearly documented so that everyone involved with him knows what it is. And of course, always supporting Jenna to say that that vision is going to change and it's going to evolve over time. And I trust you to work with everyone to keep that vision alive and meaningful to Michael. All of the documents, I will be the first to say that when I was raising my kids and I had to find a document, I was always kind of going through piles of paper on my desk. It is now all organized in one place. The medical information. Michael has very complex medical needs. So we put all of that together. His living, his day program, all of the information about DDD and Social Security. So I'm going to go through a little bit of what I've done. And it's by no means complete. I think this will always be a work in progress. And as you listen, you may have even better ideas, or you may be able to take what I've done and then make it effective for your family. So this is where I have gone. So starting with Family Matters, we can move on. I have done letters to families. Jenna is co-guardian. So it is my intention. She's younger than Michael by 5 years. It is, obviously all of our intentions that when I can no longer be the primary person for Michael, that she will take over. She has a great husband, and they will do that as a team. I'll be the first to say that my daughter has no financial brain. So when it comes to the financial matters, she's going to depend on her husband. But what I realized when I was redoing my will, I needed to horribly think about what would happen. God forbid it wasn't Jenna, and nobody wants to think about that. So I spoke with 2 of my nephews, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and then certainly my sister and my brother. But the reason I focused on my nephews is because I really felt it had to be someone of that generation that would be ready to jump in if need be. You can go to the next slide. So what I really wanted to accomplish and leave for Jenna more than anything was, you've got this and you can do it your way. You don't have to do it my way. That I trust you to take this challenge and go with it and run with it in however it works for you, for your family, for Michael. and whatever new and creative ideas that you may bring to it. That was what I really wanted to convey to her. And the second thing I wanted to convey to her is no guilt. If it's not perfect, that's okay. You just keep working with it. Because I think all of us, as we think about how we've parented our children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, I know for myself, I could I could go back and say, gee, if I only had a do-over. I want her to know that whatever she does, it will be the best thing that she can do, and there should be no guilt. Next slide. I spoke to two nephews. I have more nieces and nephews than just that, but these were the two that I think are most grounded at the moment. Knowing that that may change. So if that ever came to be, what I wanted to say to them, and I wanted to remind them in the letter, was bring the nieces and nephews together and you guys decide how to best handle it. But that I hope that Michael's care will always remain with a family member. They all grew up with Michael. They all know Michael. They all care deeply about Michael. And I think for me and for our family, I would want his care to stay with a family member. Next slide. So then I wanted to make sure that the current vision for Michael was in this binder and was clearly articulated. So we can go to the next slide. I think you've seen some of these forms already today, either in Tricia's presentation or another presentation. This is Michael's integrated support star that I utilize from the Charting the Life course tools that you can find online at lifecoursetools.com. And this one just kind of takes a look at where we are and what we're doing and what we see for the future. So, where do we want to go? What do we want to continue to work on? What are we working on? There are things Jenna and I are working on now for Michael together. One of them is hopefully that he'll make his confirmation. So, I wanted her to just kind of have that visual and for that to be documented. You can go to the next slide. And then know that through DDD, every ISP has a person-centered planning tool. And I don't know that people, always see it and always work with it. That is the intention, that it's developed collaboratively with the support coordinator and any other members of the team, and really kind of gets into the DDD system. What is important to this individual? What supports does this individual need? What works for this individual doesn't work for this individual. So I think you have to kind of look at that every year when you have your annual ISP meeting and make sure that the family input is the major part of this. And certainly, this is something that I have Jenna collaborating with on at this point. Next slide. And then finally, our vision. And this, again, was created collaboratively with not only Jenna, actually, my mother put in her 2 cents on this one. But I think what's really interesting is when you talk about all the people that are supporting the individual, everybody sees the individual differently. And I think it's really important to get the perspective from all the people that are involved with your loved one and kind of get that down on paper so that it's there for all to see if you're not there to articulate it for your loved one. I should say, in Michael's case, Michael is not a verbal communicator. So in terms of him articulating a vision, yes, you can tell what he likes and he doesn't like, but he's not going to be able to articulate it in great detail. He will need an advocate to do that for him. Okay, next slide. I don't know, can I advance it? Nope. There we go. Whoops. So then I put together all the documents in one place so that if you need them, we can find them easily. You can move on. So in the front of the binder, there's the sleeve with all the little card components that has all the important documents in terms of cards, the medical cards, the non-driver ID, the Social Security card, and all of that. And then you can keep going. Next slide. And then the documents, guardianship papers, birth certificate, all of that. When I'm no longer here, that binder will go live with Jenna. Moving on. Okay, so then we went to medical. And that one is kind of tricky. here's one of my do-overs in life. Michael had a very complex medical history as a child. I didn't really document it that well, and I really wish I had because now it's a matter of me recreating it. And Jenna, of course, being 5 years younger, doesn't have that history. So you can go to the next slide. So Michael has charge syndrome, which every time I go to the doctor, I have to explain it. Nobody knows what it is. So what I've started doing when I go to a new doctor is bringing the fact sheet so that they can understand what charge syndrome is. And now documenting that for Jenna, that it was diagnosed at birth, and because of it, there have been many, many surgeries along the way, and how that has impacted his developmental history. So all of that is now documented, so Jenna can give that. Recently became very important with seeing an ENT surgeon for Michael to really be able to talk about how his choanal atresia was corrected and what his palate looks like and why it looks like he has a corrected cleft, which he does not have a cleft. Okay, moving on. A list of all of the current providers and where to find them and why we have them. There are a lot of them. And just some words of wisdom. Michael is no fun to take to the doctor. No fun. Not happy. So if there's a lot of walking, we do go to Columbia Presbyterian in New York. If we have to park 2 blocks from the doctor's office, Michael needs to go in a wheelchair. I also feel if you can make those appointments first thing in the morning, and these are little things that I just do, but I want to be there, so if somebody else has to do them, they know that. Make the appointments first thing in the morning so you're not stuck in a crowded waiting room forever, and bring the charge worksheet. Next slide. A list of all his current medications, and of course that needs to be kept up to date because that does change, and that can always be gotten from the group home nurse because they always have an updated list. Next slide. This was one of my epiphanies. We all function with portals now. Jenna would never be able to find the portals, and she would never be able to find the all the passwords. And what I recently am changing, I set up all his portals as if I were Michael. And now I am changing that so that I am his legal representative, and Jenna is also a legal representative, so she can get right into the portals. So also, you know, the idea that she has all the apps and that she can do her telehealth appointments if needed. So here's a list of all the portals, and I think that's a really important part of this binder. So I keep on my computer all of his medical records, and this is now in a shared Google document. So there it is by specialty. All the after visit summaries from every appointment are in there. So if she needs to go back and see a history, she can do that. So, you know, for each specialty, it's all there and it's in a shared Google file, which she can access at any time. Okay. So Michael is in a provider managed setting with YCS, and that is the next one. So he lives at the Hilltop House in Princeton, and I wanted her to have all of the contact information for all of the people that are important to Michael in the group home. You can keep going. Next slide. And then I wanted to do, with the group home for me, there's a lot of little things that you just need to be on top of and that you just need to understand have to be done. They'll call me when he needs any kind of personal care needs. I Amazon that. That's all set up in his Amazon account. It goes directly. Amazon has now become a verb. I Amazon that. Furniture has to be replaced, mattresses, etc. If he needs them, I wanted her to understand that that was her responsibility, and responsible for the clothes and the ongoing care. Sometimes his clothes are a little messy, and I, would like them, something I want her to be on top of. Next slide. I maintain a personal needs account at the group home. We are in this profession, I'm sure you've heard a ton of them today. We are very acronym heavy. So I made sure that she had all the acronyms So when somebody said, we need P&A, she knows what they're talking about. Uh, and Michael does go out and about a lot, so he does need to keep a nice P&A account. So there's that. I have the house manager send me a weekly email with all the things that Michael has done. I would like to see that continued. And what an IDT meeting is, that we have regular IDT meetings, and those are very critical to keeping up on the group home and making sure things are going the way they're supposed to go. And then this is posted in his room, and we're always adding to it little things to know about Michael. I wanted to be very clear that I do manage all medical appointments. I don't want them taking him to the doctor, and I want her to know that. I also want her to know that sometimes if the bills go to the group home, they might go in a drawer, and then a year later we'll hear from a collection agency. So please keep on top of that. Ordering, his horseback riding, his medications, how he takes them. Keep just all the little things that need to be known about Michael. And now we're going to move to the day program. So Michael goes to a great day program. I think somebody from the day program is there. And so let me talk about that a little bit. We can go to the next slide. Again, the contact list, who to talk to, who to be part of. Actually, that needs to be revised, but you get the idea that there's a contact list. Go ahead. And some of the things that he does through day program. He goes swimming, which he does through goods and services from the day program. See the fiscal intermediary information. What is a fiscal intermediary? I wanted her to understand that. And of course, that's changing right now. He has a personal needs account at the day program as well, which I can simply pay, increase if he needs it through Venmo. That he gets OT. He has a one-to-one at the day program. Music is a big part of it. And one of the things that I really love is salon day. He gets his hair and facial hair taken care of, and that's all paid through Venmo. All the little things that she needs to know. And then the financial piece. So just a listing of Michael's accounts and what they are and where to find them. And then moving on. Understanding the idea of contribution to care, Michael contributes 75% of his Social Security benefit to YCS for his contribution to care, and that has to be looked at annually as the Social Security benefit, increases the little bit that it increases, and that gets paid by the 15th of the month to YCS. And then the ever popular auditing, my favorite part of taking care of Michael. He gets audited through Medicaid, his special needs account, his guardianship report, and his Social Security representative payee. The binder has examples of all of those, so they kind of can see how they're done, and really also a discussion of the need to keep receipts and to be able to account for how his money is spent. And then finally, support coordination. Michael works with Skylands and the support coordinator contact. The fact that she does monthly check-ins. We have a wonderful support coordinator we're very happy with. And then an understanding of his tier. He is an EA, and understanding the New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment and the NJCAT and how important that is to Michael. And lastly, this is an example of his ISP. His ISP is in the binder as well as, again, in all of the Google Drive. And moving on. And last but not least, his addressing enhanced needs forms, which, is the way that he's found eligible for the tier that he is. And I think are we at the end? I think we are. So I just wanted to share that example of how, we're putting it all in one place, and so that it's easier for me, in all honesty. I now know where everything is. I'm not looking for anything anymore. and most of all, that it would be easy for my daughter to take over if she needs to, if and when she needs to do that. So I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you can take that information and morph it into how it would work best for your family. Thank you.
You know, my girl is 33 now, and this was really important, having an organizational structure to put everything in. I thought I was organized, but I think I can do a better job of it. So Cathy, thank you very much. Okay.
Welcome.
All right, so that's pretty much the end, but if anybody has questions, feel free to ask now. If not, I want to thank you again. One more pitch for Regional Family Support Planning Council. Advocacy is our middle name, so we are in the middle of advocating for Medicaid, of course, making sure that whoever the next governor is has people with developmental disabilities on their agenda, because this is a critical part of families. Even if you don't have a direct relative, you know someone who has a disability. So all our contact information is in the back of the presentation. Thank you very much.